tell you what, that is one of those songs that I don't know. I don't. I think that I just sing that song a lot. I mean, a lot when I'm like at school or I'm thinking, I'm playing that song, and that's one of those songs you can get down on in your truck, when nobody's around, So I like that. It's awesome that you're here. Awesome that we're getting some rain. I wish. Sometimes there's days like today, it feels like you should be on a deer stand. So I'm just saying. I'm not the typical guy. I know some of you guys that's heard me talk before has heard me talk about this, but I'm not the typical guy. I get lost, and I admit it. I mean literally bad lost. Like, I get really turned around really easy. That's why I like when I want to go elk hunting so bad. That's like a bucket list thing of mine. But I want to go with like one of those GPS tracker deals where like I can like set my home base and then I can walk anywhere I want to, but that thing will take me back. And I also want to go with somebody that knows what they're doing. Like they can, I would feel good hanging out with somebody. I see old Todd back there. I wouldn't mind going elk hunting, but I would like to go with somebody like you. Somebody that's big and can clean elk and get me home safe. But it's really irritating. I'm not kidding. Bev is my personal navigational person. I mean, I drive and she tells me where to go. And I have a video, like when we go to big cities like Joplin and stuff, I have to, that was supposed to be funny, like Joplin's not. It took me forever to realize that range line was north. It didn't feel like north. Like it felt like it should be going some other direction. But anyway, that's beside the point. But this is what Bev and I look like. Kyle, are you ready for this? This is what Bev and I look like when we drive through like towns and stuff. Kyle, are you ready? Oh. See, that kind of looks like Bev is constantly talking to me. That's good, Kyle, so you get that. I may not be driving quite that fast, but it's pretty much just solid directions. Like, I can pull off the road at if we're traveling somewhere and I'm on a big highway, I can pull off the road and get gas, okay? And I'll get turned around like, how do I get back out? And I just pulled off. And so, and here's the thing. People say guys don't ask for directions. I do. Because I would be lost forever. Like, I can get lost. The other day when we went to the squirrel derby, or had the squirrel derby, which I performed well at, may I say. Who said no, I didn't? So, yeah. Eli was there with me. I didn't kill a single squirrel. It was kind of bad. It's like, seriously? And I was walking through the woods on this place that I've been on, and it's not like I was going to be lost, like spend the night out there kind of lost. But I'm walking around and I'm looking, and it's kind of getting dead. No squirrels are out, so I'm just hoping to catch something, and I'm just kind of milling around, looking at stuff. Maybe looking for deer sign or anything I could find. And I start walking, I'm like, I'm not sure where I'm going to come out at. Like, I didn't know. And pretty soon, if you've ever been in the woods, like big woods, and it wasn't like I was in a Colorado forest or something, but it was, a little place. But everything looks the same, and you start focusing on what looks the same. It's like you look around and there is nothing there that tells you this is the direction you need to go. And my focus switches. I'm not interested in hunting so much as I'm more concerned about, like, where am I going to come out? Where is this going to lead me? In that moment, the forest or the trees or the woods start becoming my focus. And here's the thing, where we look, the thing that consumes our vision is what gets our focus. What we start looking at, what we start thinking about is what gets our focus. I have a buddy, he's real funny. He said one time he was walking out of a store going to his car in the parking lot, and he said this real pretty girl walks by, and he got in the back seat of his car instead of the front seat. And I always thought that was that was a funny story. But the thing was, he's walking, and he lost focus of what he was doing. And I know that some of you girls, you all like want to have a conversation with your husband while we're watching a game or something. Bev does this every once in a while, and she gets irritated. I don't know why she gets irritated. This is one of those things I don't understand about women. They do the same thing over and over, and they get irritated about the same thing over and over and over and over again. But like, Oh, sorry. Anyways, I'm like into a game or something that's kind of intense, like a hunting show or something, and she starts asking me questions, and I don't have time to seriously pull away and go to that because I can't. And you guys, you women ought to know that this is going to cause an argument. So just stop asking questions look at the TV, see if it's an intense moment. If it's an intense moment, don't ask the question. You won't have a reason to get mad then. I'm starting to be more and more like you all the time, aren't I, Anthony? So it's actually you guys' fault when you ask us a question at the wrong time, because our one-track mind won't pull away from that. But I think God sometimes feels like the spouse that's not focused on. We have so much junk around us, and I don't think that we are intentionally trying not to focus on God. See, I think we beat each other up a lot of times, or we go and you hear people say, you need to be more focused on God. You need to be more about God. And I'm thinking, I don't know that it's necessarily somebody's fault, necessarily. It's this idea that, man, the world is all-consuming, and it begs for our attention. I know we're busy, but the world accepts literally nothing more than total commitment. And here's the thing. When I talk about total commitment by the world, it can be good things. It literally can be something that is beneficial. But we can get so caught up in doing the things that we want to do or think we need to do or that the world is requiring us to do that we literally can lose track of what we're doing for God. And it's rapid fire. There's no downtime. And everything is vying for our attention. Everything is vying for our time. And what happens is God gets our leftovers. And our gaze shifts from Him to the chaos. But here's the thing. God wants our attention even in the middle of the chaos. Near the end of Jesus' ministry, He had all these guys with Him. He had these disciples, and they're hanging out. And I know this sounds crazy, but I guarantee those disciples were like quasi rock stars. Can you imagine following Jesus around and all these crowds of people? I mean, He would have to literally get in a boat, push out from the shore so He could talk to the masses of people. And these disciples, they're hanging out with Him. And I bet you they felt like almost roadies. Like they were along for the ride. I mean, they're next to the fame. They're next to the big deal. They are like in the band with this guy. He is like, he's their leader, and they're taking part in this. And I want to tell you, these are ordinary guys. It actually says when they in one place that it talks about people that were following Christ, they knew that they were ordinary men that had just been with Jesus. So these guys are ordinary guys. There's a bunch of guys, I guarantee you, they would be similar to the crowd in here. I mean, they're out fishing and Jesus is calling them off the boat. They're a lot like us. They're probably in anonymity. They're hidden. They're just doing their thing, and all of a sudden, instantaneous fame. It's like hitting the lottery, and they become these almost like rock star figures because they're following this guy that is attracting so much attention everywhere he goes. And I guarantee you, their eyes had a tendency to wonder. I bet if they're like me, there was some of them that kind of got a kick out of it. The fame, the crowds, the power. Can you imagine hanging out with a guy that you're on a boat with and a storm comes up and he's asleep and you wake him up and he speaks to the sea and it calms and the weather calms and he's God. Can you imagine hanging out with him? I mean, he's the kind of guy you want to take over to your neighbor's house and show him off. That's who he is. But there's this thing. They're watching all the debates with people. They're watching all the healings. They're watching the people's lives be changed. They're watching all this stuff. But in Matthew 17, and this is where we're going today. Matthew 17, there was something that happened. There was something that caused them to refocus. And it's and I've never really talked about these set of verses. And I got to be honest with you, it's kind of an odd occurrence. Because Jesus spent so much of his time, when you go through his ministry, he would heal people and he would say, don't tell anybody about that. Don't say anything about that. And it was almost like he wanted to stay hidden. But there was something that happened in Matthew chapter 17 that was kind of altogether different than who Jesus actually was. But it was all he was. It was the main focus of who he was. And I want to read this to you. After 6 days, that's verse 1, chapter 17. After 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John. Now here's the thing. He had a group of disciples, and then in that disciples, he had an inner group, 3 that he really hung out with. The 3 that they were like his closest companions, Peter, James, and John. And it said, he took with him Peter, James, and John, the brother of James, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And these guys, remember, they've been traveling the circuit. They've been seeing all the crazy things that Jesus can do, and they've seen this man perform miracles and turn water into wine and multiply loaves and bread and fish to feed thousands of people. They've sat there and watched all of this, and they've been a part of all of this, and they've seen this human doing these non-human things, like out of this world, like really amazing events. But he says, he calls them up to this high mountain. And verse 2, it says something that is crazy. And for the longest time, I don't guess I really thought about it. I just know that it happened, and I really couldn't grasp what it meant. And I still don't know that I quite understand because I wasn't there. But it says, there he was transfigured before them. So this man that had been doing all this crazy stuff, this guy that they could actually touch and feel and hug and listen to, and probably so close they could smell him, and he probably snored at night, and they probably fished together, and and they ate together, and they knew this guy. They had become intimately acquainted with him as a human being that was doing all this crazy stuff that they've never seen before. I mean, there are some old fishermen and tax collectors and people, and so they're seeing all this crazy stuff, and Jesus takes them up on this mountain, and it says he was transfigured before them. And it said his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became as white as the light. And then appeared before them Moses and Elijah talking with Jesus. So these guys, these old common dudes, they're hanging out with their friend, Jesus. And it's almost like he took them somewhere and he said, "Watch this, boys." And goes, woof. And how did that look? I don't know. My mind has a picture. Like, I can picture things like I see in the movies, or, like something far out. It had to be stellar. It had to be something pretty cool. And all of a sudden, Jesus is like light, like just total light. And then here walks in Moses and Elijah. And they're starting to visit with this guy. And there's some real key components to why Moses and Elijah was there. We're not going to get into that, but it's about showing them that those old prophets, knew who he was. Like they were kind of fulfilling the idea that this truly is Jesus. And Peter, the always questioning, talking out of turn, kind of a goofy guy, kind of like me, Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, I will put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." Peter's trying to figure it out. He's trying to make sense of this. He's wanting to set up something for these 3 guys, and I'm not even sure what kind of a shelter this was. Something for them to have, like whether it was going to be a lean-to or what. What do you want me to do, God? I feel like I'm supposed to do something. Man, you're glowing. Do you realize that you look like the sun right now? You're hard to look at, probably. What do you want me to do right now? And while he was still speaking, a bright light covered them, and a voice from the cloud, a bright cloud covered them, and a voice from the cloud said, "This is my Son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." When the disciples heard this, they fell face down to the ground, terrified. But Jesus came and touched them. "Get up," he said. "Don't be afraid." And here's where this whole thing goes. When they looked up, they saw no one except Jesus. How many experiences have we had? How many times in our life have we pulled away from the chaos and the junk that surrounds us, our everyday life, and we see nothing but Christ? Nothing takes our mind off him. Nothing pulls us. This cloud came and it enveloped these disciples. And they saw no one but Jesus. Just like when I was in the woods and I saw nothing but trees. When we become inundated with God, our focus will change and we will have nothing to look at Accept Him. Accept Him. Here's the thing. Doing life isn't an option. We have to do life. Life, we will get up tomorrow and go to our jobs. We will get up and we have responsibilities. That's not an option. But our focus is an option. See, I kind of feel like, and I'm guilty of this, when it comes time for church, I switch on my God switch, and I go and I be about God. But when I walk out, I think I switch off my God switch and I turn on my everything else responsibility switch, and that consumes me until I come back to this place, or I have a moment of prayer time at home and I switch on my God switch again, and all of a sudden I'm all about God for that moment. You see, I don't think that's the way it's supposed to work. And see, I'm guilty of that. Because here's the thing, like I said, life's not an option. I'm going to be expected to do certain things tomorrow. I teach 5th and 6th graders. I promise you, they will consume your attention. It's not like I can go in there and go, you guys quiet down. I'm going to crack open the Word, and I'm going to do a little studying for church tomorrow. I need you all to just work on your math. That's probably not going to work out real well for me. So I promise you, I understand the idea of doing life, because there's times that I'm not focused on God. But what happens if we are focused on God? What happens when we do life, but our focus is on God? What happens when we go to our job and our focus is on God? What happens when we go to practice with our kids and our focus on God? What if I go hunting with my buddies? My focus is on God. I can do life. I can do all the things I need to do, but my focus needs to be so much higher. My focus needs to be completely on God. I literally need to keep, they say, get your head out of the clouds. I need to be like the disciples and leave my head in the clouds. I need to look above the junk a lot of times and do life, but do it on God's level. Sometimes I think we live below our privileges because we forget about letting God inundate every part of our lives. Wherever we're at, I screw it up all the time. I miss opportunities. I miss chances. How many chances do I have with a certain individual? God may run someone past my way that I've got to be God to. I got to use a story. I know this. I don't want to pick on people, but you had the guy the other day that was cussing you up a storm. He was telling me about that you were doing your job, and this guy comes along and man, he is mad and hating on you because you're doing your job. And you know what? You could have been mad and retaliated and been ugly and did all the wrong things. But you know what? If I've got my head in the clouds and I'm working on God's level, what He says to me, I've got to turn back to Him and say what God says to me to say. That's how it works. And I don't know that it always comes out that easy. There's things that happen that cause us to lose our focus. There's things that attract our attention. I can tell you, when I say my wife, when she has a conversation with me and I'm watching something, I promise you that I have a one-track mind. I promise you that. I can be involved with something like that. And she wants to talk to me, but I'm involved. I'm listening. Yeah. I heard what you said, but I'm not putting much thought into it because I'm focused right there. I'm the world's worst at it. But I can tell you that when I read stuff like this, it causes me to want to keep my focus on something other than the things that aren't near as important as God. When we focus on God, our desires change, the way we do life changes, our intentions change, our dreams change, and the joy returns. Every time that I pull my focus off of the junk, every time, and I really start focusing on God, when I get down, and there's days that I'm down, there's some days that I don't do well, like I'm done. Like somebody needs to be punched in the face, done. And I'm mad. I'm mad at the world. I'm mad at me. I'm getting aggravated at God, going, why, fix this. And that's when my wife says stuff like, why don't you just thank God for everything that's good that's happening in your life, Kevin? That's the last thing I want to do. I don't want to think. I want to be mad. I want you to not tell me to be thankful. I just want to be mad right now. But when I read something in the Word, or God speaks to me, or I spend some time in prayer and He gets me to thinking back on the right track, and He sticks my head back in the clouds, can I tell you something? Somehow, some reason, the junk just goes. It's weird. But man, it works. I want you guys to know that when I preach this, it's for me. But I have a feeling that you can come along on the ride as well. I have a feeling that you can say the same things as well. Because I guarantee you, it's not going to get easier. Turn the news on. We never watch the news, okay? I know I should. We never watch the news. Our world's not getting easier, guys. Our school system's not getting better, guys. And I'm not talking about McDonald County, so let's move on for that. I'm talking about in general. Bev and I have been having some conversations, or had a conversation here a while back. And I talked to our board, and my focus hasn't been where it should be. I got to tell you something, running a church or being a part of a church, a New Start church, a church that meets on an old rickety building on Main Street, a church that we don't really even know what we're doing. Being a bivocational pastor, being away from our family, my focus gets lost sometimes. I was talking to the board last Sunday, and I was telling them I'd had a conversation with Bev, and I want you to know that I have 5 older brothers, and I have a great family in Oklahoma. And I want to tell you, there's a lot of times that I wish that I was going to Sunday afternoon lunch with my mom. There's a lot of times I wish that my kids could grow up with their uncles and cousins, and because we have nobody here that our family, blood family. And I used this analogy. I said, it feels like I'm on a boat, and I've always done this. Yeah, let's start the church. Let's do this. God, yeah, let's go with it. Let's make a run at it. But it's like I had a big rope, and I roped the dock, and I pushed off from the dock, but it held onto the rope. And we get a little bit deeper and bigger, a little bit bigger water, but I still held onto the rope. I may be in the middle of the lake before long, but I was still holding onto the rope. And that rope was, I have no ties here. We can pick up. We can go back to Oklahoma. We can get teaching jobs there and live by my family. And can I tell you something? For the longest time, I felt like a visitor here. In this town, in this community, I feel like a visitor. We don't even have stuff hung on our walls at the house. And I think that was about, we plan on doing it, but it's almost intentional. We've lived there a year and we haven't hardly put anything up on the walls. Because I'm in this boat and I'm out in the middle of the water and I'm in the middle of ironworks and I'm in the middle of this community and I'm in the middle of doing stuff. But I have my hand on the rope to go back home because you know why? That would be a whole bunch easier. When one of our kids are sick, we could call Grandma and say, "Hey, Grandma, could you come over and watch kids? We got to go to work." We don't have that. Easter lunch. When everybody goes and hangs out with their family, we go and try to find something to do because we don't have family. And I don't want you to feel sorry for me. I just want you to understand where we've been. I'm out in the middle of this lake in this boat trying to do what God wants me to do. But here's the thing. I'm not focused on God. I'm focused on making sure I'm taken care of. And tell me how successful you think that is. Well, it's a big bum sickle is what it is. So I'm having this conversation with Bev here the other day, and I was like, man, I don't know. What do I do? I said, I got to be honest. And I was talking to Anthony about this the other day. If you come to McDonald County, you guys that live here, this is home. But people that aren't from around here, there's not a lot of stuff here that's like going, wow, this is crazy cool. You know, we don't have a mall. Not that I hate the mall. I don't even know why I said that. I mean, we have a Walmart's. But there's not like, it's not like things are just rolling off the plate to do, and you're like, man, this is the greatest place in the world to live, and all this stuff. But I had this conversation with my wife, and she's like, Kevin, it's a mission field. And I know I'm probably going over a little bit of time, but I got to explain to you what I mean by this. I went home, and I started kind of like doing some soul searching. This place is way better than it is back home. I actually like a lot of you guys. There's people back home, they're just wearing me out. Why did I always hang on to home? Because it was familiar. That's where I grew up. And I start looking around and I'm like, I have some pretty good friends here. I have some people that I love to be around. I live in the coolest house that we've ever lived in, period. It's the greatest deal ever for us in a house. My kids, even though they're like me a little bit, my kids are in spite of me and where I'm always off track and wandering around, my kids are becoming the people that God wanted them to become. And you know what? I started hanging out and I started looking at the good in this place. Can I tell you something? There might be a better place to live on planet Earth. I don't know. But for some reason, for right now, God wants me to make this home. Can I tell you something? The rope I've been hanging on to, it takes the pressure off now. I'm committed. And you go, Kevin, that's kind of funny that you'd say you're committed and you're 3 years into this place. It's weird. I wanted to be committed, but I never could. But now I like this place. Now I enjoy, I know it's crazy, I enjoy this place. There's this freedom in my soul now. And here's the thing. How did it happen was pretty simple. I quit looking for what I thought was better, and I started enjoying where God put me right now. This place may not have been where I grew up, but this place is now home. I told Bev, we need to get some stuff put on our walls. If y'all want to come over and help with that, y'all are taller than me, so come on over. We got a lot of stuff. And I have some work to do on our shop, and so y'all can come out and help with that and make it look better. And I'm just saying, it's home now. Guess what? You guys aren't perfect, okay? I didn't know if you knew that or not. There's some stuff that you all will do that will irritate me. Like I will go, why did he do that? But guess what? If I was at home with my brothers, you know what? They irritate the snot out of me. Why do you do that? And you know what? We might just come to your house for Easter. Whether we're invited or not, we might just come over. I don't care anymore, really. Does that make sense? Here's the thing. If it's okay with you, I think I'm going to stick my head in the cloud, and I'm just going to leave it there. And I'm going to try to focus on God. And if you do something that I perceive as stupid, I'm going to focus on God, and I want to let God deal with you on that. And if I do something that's stupid, I'm going to let you keep your head in the cloud and let God deal with me on that, if that's okay. So my deal is, if I commit to this place, I want you to. I want you to commit to this place. This is your home. What can you do to make this place better? And I'm not talking about this building. Come on. Think outside the box. What can you do to make this place better? What can you do? Russell, the other day, we were coming down here after the squirrel derby to unload those chairs, and that lady that owns that store, I don't even remember her name, or rented that store, and her husband has got all kinds of medical issues, and Russell comes over to me and goes, hey, I think we should go pray for that lady over there. Okay. I don't know her, Russell, but I didn't say anything. I was like, I'm just along for the ride, and I don't want to disappoint Russell, man. So I go over there, and he starts telling me about this lady, and we start talking. And lo and behold, while the guys, everybody was unloading the chairs, which worked out great for us, we went over and talked to this lady and had prayer with her right there on Main Street. You know why? Because this is home. I don't have to know that person. Russell does, and Russell's my friend. This is our home. We take care of people. What can you do to get your focus off of what you just see? Get your focus. Here's another thing about not being from here. I don't know people. You could be an axe murderer for all I know, and you know what? I just take you at face value. I'm the best guy in the world. Great, you're an axe murderer. I don't know. What can you do right here in this place that'll make it better? Because if I'm committed, is it time for you to commit? What can you do to change your world? And I promise you, it's simple as this. It's that you focus on God. You see nothing but Jesus. You drop all the preconceived notions of people. You drop the past. You forget what you know. You drop it, and you start seeing people like Jesus sees them. When you look up and you see nothing but Jesus, it don't matter who's around, all of a sudden, you're Christ to these people. God did something that was crazy cool. He sent his son. The least that we can do is keep our focus on him. He's not calling you to preach, maybe. He's not calling you to lead a church. He's not calling you, but what is he calling you to do? I promise you, God's not going to sit and bless you while you sit on your behind. He wants you to be on fire for him. And all the other stuff will take care of itself. I love you guys. I really do. I'm ate up with you guys. You're some of the closest people to me. When I'm here, I am with family. I like you. You know, people go, I love you. Well, they love you enough to get to heaven. I like you. I really like you. And that right there, when people see what we do with each other, they'll want to be a part of it. I love you guys. Let's pray. God, I love you so much. God, you're so good to us. God, help us to focus on you. I blow it a lot. I'm a mess. I know. I'm hard to keep up with. God, we have dreams and ideas and desires, and God, we plan our course, but you guide our steps, bottom line. God, we have to do life. I understand that. But help us to cut loose of the things that bind us to shore. Help us to push off and keep our head focused on you and not the things around us, and help us to make a difference right where you've planted us. God, I want you to speak to our hearts and help us to see what you want us to do. God, man, I'm not the smartest guy in the country, I can tell you. But Father, I want people to see that I love you, and I want them to have that same love for you. I want to be sold out. God, you know the things we need. I worry so much about the little junk. God, you got it. Help me to focus on the thing that is the most important, which is your son. And then, God, you'll make everything fall into place. I love you so much. I love this church, and I love these people. There's not a bad one among us. Thanks for caring about us. In your absolute great name I pray. Amen. Guys, you're dismissed. Have a fantastic Sunday. Hey, listen, next week is Christmas Eve on Sunday. Last year was Christmas, and a lot of people didn't want to have church on Christmas, and then we got in trouble by people like, you should have church. So we're going to have church Christmas Eve. And come, we might do something crazy. I don't know. We might go, I don't know, have service outside. Hey, it's supposed to snow too, by the way. So it may be hubcap deep on a Ferris wheel next Sunday. So, but we're going to have service. Come, enjoy it. Come prepared to have fun and talk and be a family. And I haven't talked to anybody about this. I know there's things people doing and stuff. But it might be kind of cool if we could hang out for a little bit after church and visit and talk and eat some goodies or something. Maybe have people make something, finger foods or something. We could laugh and talk for a little bit. I love you guys. Have a great week. You're dismissed.